Peace, what's up everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ron's Library and Ideas. I'm Ron. Now I feel like it is my job to bring you guys information that I find to be enlightening or interesting. You know, in one of my last lives, we were talking about the book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And it's funny how you read something and you don't see exactly how the dots connect, but you'll find something else and it brings you to the conclusion it brought me to the conclusion that, man, this whole thing is a game. They're playing games against us. Now, I'm going to bring you the information. I'll tell you where I got it from, but I believe you are intelligent enough to make up your own mind about what the conclusions are of this information. So today, I'm going to be reading from Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the secret history of the 60s. Now, just picking up this book, just looking at it, you wouldn't think that this has anything to do with black people. But from this author, his name is Tom O'Neill, from his research, he found that the FBI and the CIA might have had a hand in the Charles Manson murders. So for those of you who don't know, I'm gonna read the back cover of this book for you so we get a better idea of what this book is about. So it says, what if everything we thought we knew about the Manson murders was wrong? A sweeping indictment of the Los Angeles justice system, with cover-ups reaching all the way to the FBI and CIA. And that was said by Entertainment Weekly. Now, those of us in the hip-hop community, we know that the LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office are some corrupt individuals. They got a lot of white supremacist gang members, or suspected white supremacist gang members within the police force. So the back of this book says, 20 years ago, when Tom O'Neill was reporting a magazine piece about the Manson family murders, he worried there was nothing new to say. Those two grim nights in August 1969 had been cataloged, fictionalized, and mythologized, and Charles Manson became one of history's most infamous criminals. Then O'Neill unearthed shocking evidence of a cover-up behind the official story, including police carelessness, legal misconduct, and potential surveillance by intelligence agents. Each discovery brought more questions. Who were Manson's real friends in Hollywood, and how far would they go to hide their ties? Why didn't law enforcement, including Manson's own parole officer, act on their many chances to stop him? And how did Manson, an illiterate ex-con, turn a group of peaceful hippies into remorseless killers? The product of 2 decades of reporting, hundreds of new interviews, and dozens of never before seen documents from the LAPD, the FBI, and the CIA, Chaos mounts an argument that could be, according to Los Angeles Deputy District Attorney Stephen Kay, strong enough to overturn the verdicts on the Manson murders. So just reading the back of that, it doesn't seem like that has anything directly to do with black people. But when I got to this chapter, neutralizing the left, that's when it became evident that, all this stuff is tied together. There are games that are played on a scale that, it's hard for the everyday man to imagine. The people that talk about conspiracy theories, they like to make them seem like they're crazy. And when I say they, I mean the media. Anytime you want to dismiss an idea, all they have to do is just say, oh, that's just a crazy conspiracy theory. And most people, because we've been programmed that way, will dismiss what that person is saying. Grab a drink of water. It's a brilliant tactic on their behalf. And I believe the term conspiracy theory was first coined after JFK was assassinated and people weren't buying the official story. So when people had questions regarding, the FBI and the CIA investigating I believe it was just the FBI, but they were investigating the assassination. When people weren't buying that official story, they told them, don't believe in those crazy conspiracy theories. They're wrong. And ever since then, all you have to do is say something is a conspiracy theory and people will reject it and not pay attention to it. So let's get in a little bit to what they're saying. Just to put us in the right mindset, give you the time frame, what people were feeling at the moment. You know, the 60s were the free love hippie movement. We were fighting, the United States was fighting in Vietnam. They were having a lot of anti-war protests here in America. And the powers that be, people like the President of the United States and people in power and control at the FBI, they didn't like that. You know, it was a new idea for the United States to be going off to war and to have so many of the citizens be against the actual war. When World War II was going on, you didn't have anti-war demonstrations happening en masse in the United States. It was very clear cut who was the good guys and who were the bad guys. And because of that, you know, it was like this really gun-ho spirit, this esprit de corps that made people want to sign up for the military and volunteer for the draft so they can go off and fight the Nazis. You know, they were looked at as heroes. You know, I heard of a documentary where this one guy, he couldn't get drafted. All the other young men in this town got drafted, and it drove him to a depression. He was sad about it. Because think about it, all your friends are off fighting this war where heroes are being made and we're fighting against the bad guys, and I'm stuck at home for whatever reason. Well, that sentiment was not the same when it came to the Vietnam War. People were very against the war, especially when reports started coming back of the tactics that our government was using to try to win. I'll let you go and look that up for yourself, but you know, you had US soldiers coming home for the first time from war. Instead of like in World War II being looked at as heroes, they were being called baby killers, having stuff thrown at them. And when you don't have the people behind you in the fight, that makes it harder for the soldiers who are actually doing the fighting to be over there and want to fight in the first place. So you have all these demonstrations taking place on college campuses, and to the FBI, they're thinking, well, it must be the communists who are coming in and infiltrating our youth, our students. They're infiltrating these groups, so we have to do something to root them out. So this is coming from chapter 7 of this book, Chaos, and this is called Neutralizing the Left. As anti-war demonstrations spilled from campuses into the streets, Johnson ordered the FBI and the CIA to take action. Now, Johnson in this case is Lyndon B. Johnson, who was the president at the time. Johnson ordered the FBI and the CIA to take action. That August, with the president's approval, CIA Director Richard Helms authorized an illegal domestic surveillance program codenamed Chaos. Meanwhile, J. Edgar Hoover revived the FBI's dormant counterinsurgency program, COINTELPRO. Now, this is significant for a number of reasons. The first one being the CIA is not supposed to operate domestically. There's laws against that. They're only supposed to use their skills and expertise against other countries around the world. But here we have the President of the United States, what's this? In 1967 saying, no, we need you to operate against US citizens right here in America. So don't think these people are above breaking a law that's inconvenient for them. You know, when you do it, you go to jail. When they do it, they change the laws, or they say, oops, our bad. But it continues. Both agencies opened the first offices of their respective operations in San Francisco, still considered ground zero for the revolution, especially since the founding of the Black Panther Party in nearby Oakland the previous summer. Now, this is something else that was bothering them, the Black Panthers. Originally, the Black Panthers were started as a means of protection of the people in that Oakland area against the police brutalizing them. They fully acted on their right to bear arms. But you got to think about this. The country has always been very nervous about what young black people or black people as a whole would do or are going to do. There was always this fear, it's like, man, these niggas may turn up on us. And that's something that they can't abide. They have to do their very best to do away with that. Let's see. Thanks to these two secret programs and their network of well-placed informants, there was an all-out war raging in California by the summer of 1969. The FBI and CIA had induced the left to feed on itself among competing factions. What had been sectarian strife had devolved into outright violence. The more I read about it, the more I see how someone like Charles Manson could fit into a scheme like this. I was only speculating, but I knew that he spent a lot of time in Berkeley, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, often inveighing against the Black Panthers. And I had reliable sources suggesting that he was an informant or at least hanging around with others who could have been. Now that's important because in the official story of why Charles Manson did what he did, if you don't know, he had his followers drive up to a house in the Hollywood Hills, I believe, and kill these group of white people in a brutal way, mutilated the bodies, spread blood, different places, wrote helter skelter in the victims' bloods on the walls. And Manson said that he did that because he wanted to blame it on the Black Panthers and he wanted to incite a race war. His idea that white people would hear about what the Black Panthers had done to these people and be so upset that they would go out and riot and fight and start a race war. That's his official story. I'm not really buying it. I do buy the fact that they wanted to frame the Black Panthers and make them seem like they were the ones who did it. I do not buy the fact that they thought that this was going to incite a race war. I think it was another means of them discrediting the Black Panthers and making them look like enemies when in fact they started off doing something good. But that old idea of divide and conquer, you see that at work here. It says they did their best to pit these groups against each other who had similar ideas, but now let's see what we can do to make them fight against each other and lose sight of what that goal is. All right, it continues. It struck me that the Tate LaBianca murders had been so often invoked as the death kill of the 60s. Arguably, they did more than any other event to turn the public opinion against hippies, recasting the peace and love flower power ethos as a thing of latent, drug-addled criminality. As the writer Todd Gitlin noted, for the mass media, the acid head Charles Manson was ready-made as the monster lurking in the heart of every long hair. Wasn't this the goal of Chaos and COINTELPRO? Brilliant tactic on their behalf, and it worked. You know, people cut their hairs and went back to work. They went back into the system. Like you had a lot of revolutionary ideas taking hold in the 60s. You also got to think, this is when, you know, the civil rights movement was going on. You had people like Malcolm X out there speaking out against this system. So to the American government, they felt like, man, we're being attacked on all fronts. Like, what are we going to do? We're losing this war overseas, or it's not going in our favor. And then we have the blacks rising up all over the place. And now we have these kids out west protesting the war. We got to do something about this. And instead of doing the right thing or trying to do right by the people, their idea was, so let's see what we can do to continue our power. All right, so this section of the book is called Fomenting Violence and Unrest. The FBI and the CIA launched their counterintelligence programs in the same month. On August 25th, 1967, J. Edgar Hoover issued a memorandum to the chiefs of each of his FBI field offices in the United States, outlining the objective of COINTELPRO. And COINTELPRO is short for Counterintelligence Program. First launched in 1956 to increase, that's not important. They first activated in 1956 to operate against communists. And it says COINTELPRO had been activated on and off throughout the early 60s, often to vilify civil rights leaders, Martin Luther King Jr. prominent among them. In his 1967 memo, Hoover formed a new branch of the operation aiming, quote, to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize the activities of Black nationalists, hate-type organizations. The activities of all such groups of intelligence interest to this Bureau must be followed on a continuous basis. Efforts of various groups to consolidate their forces or to recruit new or youthful adherents must be frustrated. No opportunity should be missed to exploit the organizational and personal conflicts of the leaderships of the groups, and to capitalize upon existing conflicts between competing Black nationalist organizations. They used to record Martin Luther King Jr. with other women and send it to his wife as a means of disrupting his home life. They followed Malcolm X all the time and tried to get dirt on him, but that didn't work. Malcolm X was living a more righteous life. He wasn't out there womanizing. He was really about the mission. So they had to find some other type of way to, sow dissension among the ranks. In the movies, they'll show you that it was members of the Nation of Islam who ran up on that stage or ran up to the stage and shot Malcolm X all those times in front of his family. But something that Dick Gregory pointed out before he passed was that when they got the autopsy results from Malcolm X, they saw that all the bullets that entered his body were coming in at a downward angle, meaning that he was being shot from above. The people who were below the stage were below him. They should have been shooting up, so the bullets should have gone through his body in an upward angle, but that wasn't the case. Dick Gregory also found out that it was the CIA who had rented the Audubon ballroom the weeks prior to his speech there. They rented it out so they could set it up, and they assassinated one of our leaders. That's the type of stuff that they do when they see us gaining too much power. Oh, we got to take these people out. Not going to do. They assassinated him. Think about that. They're that fearful of us unifying that they were willing to take this man out. So let's continue. Informants were COINTELPRO's lifeblood, providing the only effective way for the FBI to learn about and exert influence on the groups it hoped to discredit. And that's informants. They've shown us that when we try to organize and we make groups, they can insert people into those groups who are our enemies. In my mind, the idea of getting up in groups, because you can never tell who's an agent nowadays. You don't find me hanging out with a bunch of different people trying to organize and affect change. Honestly, I think it's more effective nowadays to spread information and just get the gears going in people's heads. Just the idea that we have it in our head that this isn't right and we want this to change, that mindset puts out an energy that causes this system to collapse upon itself. There's nothing they can do about that. So, they try to keep us entertained. There's always something on TV. There's always something on social media. There's always something on the internet. Let's keep them entertained. Let's keep them as well fed as we can. And let's hope they don't pick up any books. And remember, this is Ron's Library and Ideas. I like to bring y'all books that I read that were enlightening to me. And make sure you Stay hydrated. Water is important. When you're not healthy, you're not going to change anything anyway. You can't even get your health right. So let's continue on. Excuse me. In the Black Panther Party and in Los Angeles, the U.S. organization, informants were instrumental in fomenting violence. They would spread disinformation to catalyze an intergroup rivalry, or they simply arranged for the bloodshed themselves. From Hoover on down, the FBI ranks saw the group as a threat to the national order, rivaled only by communism and nuclear holocaust. Think about that. Think about how afraid of us they are. They think black people unifying is as much of a threat to them as nuclear holocaust and communism. Nuclear holocaust, that's them setting the nukes off and destroying the planet. In their same mind, black people coming back to their rightful place in the world is the same thing. That's, we cannot allow this to happen. That's crazy to me that they're that afraid of us. And that's not for no reason. There's a reason they have that much fear in their hearts when it comes to us. And you should ask yourself, because I know there's some other races of people who are watching this video. You should ask yourself, well, what is it about black people that has our government so afraid? Do y'all have a fear that we'll do the same thing to y'all that y'all have done to us? I don't think that's the case. I feel like it's my belief, and you can have your own beliefs, but I believe that when we come back into our right minds, we'll have this realization like, you know what? I'm playing the same level of this game over and over, and really, I can move on to the next level. It's like, how many times do you want to play Mario on Nintendo? It's like, dog, they got Mario on Super Nintendo. They got Mario on Nintendo 64. They got Mario on the Dreamcast. They got Mario on the Wii. How much time are you really going to spend on the Nintendo in this basic version of the game? That's what it feels like. That we keep, doing the same mundane things over and over again in this system, in this version of reality, when it doesn't have to be that way. And the only thing that has to change is our mindset. We have to actually want to move beyond this place and move to something greater. Damn, excuse me. But as long as you're satisfied with what you have, or you're not willing to make any kind of mental change, then we're going to continue to get the same results. And I, for one, think that's pretty boring. That's lame. I'm going to read that again. From Hoover on down, J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI ranks saw the group as a threat to the national order, rivaled only by communism and nuclear holocaust. Originally, the Panthers served to safeguard Oakland's black residents from overzealous policing. They promoted lawful, armed self-defense in inner-city neighborhoods, and their social outreach programs brought meals and health care to those who couldn't afford them. Their 10-point program demanded power to determine the destiny of our black community. So I can imagine the FBI saw that as like, y'all want the power to determine your own community? Hell no, not happening. You niggas want to determine your own destiny. The nerve of you. Let's see. Okay, check this out. The FBI's role may never have come to light if not for the Citizens Committee to Investigate the FBI, an audacious crew of activist burglars who took it upon themselves to break into a small FBI field office in Media, Pennsylvania, just west of Philadelphia. One night in March 1971, the group took a crowbar to that office's dead-bolted door, stuffing suitcases with papers revealing the FBI's domestic spying, which they soon parceled out to the press. Hoover was in his high dungeon. The group's methods were straight out of FBI playbook. They cased the office for months, sending in a woman disguised as a college student to get a sense of the building's security. In his fury, Hoover allocated some 200 agents to track down the burglars, but they were never found. Only in 2014 did they reveal themselves. The existence of COINTELPRO was the single most earth-shaking revelation in the stolen documents, among which was Hoover's incendiary 1967 COINTELPRO memo, the one in which he pledged to discredit and neutralize leftist organizations. I think it's fascinating that when things like this happen and people get caught, or organizations get caught doing stuff like this, nothing really happens when they find out it's being done to black people. But do you remember when the quote unquote the right was saying down with the FBI for what they were trying to do to Trump, or what they did to Trump, former President Trump? No, when it's done to you, that's when it's a problem. Hey, wait a minute, y'all not supposed to be doing this to us. But that's the trick. They do it to all of us. This game being run on everybody in the United States. There's a club, and the majority of us are not in that club. That's just not the way that it works. You know, if you're not a multi-billionaire, like Dick Gregory said something that really stuck out to me. He said, you know, if I was in charge, I would make you black folks apologize to most of these white folks, because the white folks you mad at, they couldn't help you even if they wanted to. He said, white is not a color, it's an attitude. And if you don't have billions of dollars in the account, you can't afford the attitude. And that really struck out to me, because it's like, he said, you think the Ku Klux Klan is determining public policy? They're not. There's games being run. The people in charge, you know, they have the folks that they answer to. And there's a shadow government. There's people that we don't ever see who make the real decisions. They just play it out. So let's continue on this book, Chaos. As reported in the New York Times that May, this is 1976, the committee's final report determined that the FBI headquarters approved more than 2,300 actions in a campaign to disrupt and discredit American organizations ranging from the Black Panthers to Antioch College, and that the Bureau may have violated specific criminal statutes in pursuing actions that invoked risk of serious bodily injury or death to targets. Now, that committee that he's talking about was something that was the Congress pulled up. Listen to this. Congressman Hale Boggs, the House Majority Leader, compared the FBI to the secret police, conceding that even Congress lived in fear of them and that they'd hasten the growth of a vine of tyranny. Lawsuits brought under the Freedom of Information Act forced the Attorney General to reveal more incriminating FBI files. By 1975, anti-intelligence sentiment was so high that Congress formed a committee to scrutinize the Bureau. Led by Senator Frank Church of Idaho, the committee's investigation exposed FBI duplicity on a scale that had been unthinkable even after the Pennsylvania burglary. So that was published in 1976, and it said it gave the nations the first view of like exactly what is the FBI doing against American citizens. And these people aren't criminals that they're operating against. They're actually, exerting or using their constitutional rights. But, that's inconvenient for the power structure, because you using your constitutional rights is seen as a threat. All right, let's continue. All right, Hoover has specifically requested that these techniques be imaginative and hard-hitting, and they were. The FBI tried seemingly everything from gossip to gunfights. The Bureau mailed pejorative articles and newspaper clippings to college administrators. Its agents tried to destroy marriages by writing unsigned, malicious, rumor-mongering letters. They smeared leftists as informants when they weren't, and they stoked the flames of conflict until they grew into feuds. It's exactly what I said. It's that idea of divide and conquer. And they did that very effectively. Okay, listen to this. January 1969, when G-men had incited the murders of 2 Black Panthers on the UCLA campus. Now, G-men is a short term for government men, like people who are involved in any number of these alphabet agencies like the CIA or the FBI, ATF, all that's short for G-men. Let's see. FBI infiltrators had lied to the Panthers' rivals, the U.S. organization, telling them that the Panthers were meeting on the campus to plan their assassinations. U.S. responded by ambushing 2 Panthers at a Black student union meeting and shooting them dead. LASO, which is the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office, knew that the Panthers were murdered because of the FBI's meddling. They didn't care. In fact, they hid the FBI's role in the violence. In their eyes, the most desirable outcome had been achieved. 2 Panthers were dead, 3 U.S. gang members were in jail, and the American public was more fearful of Black militants. The FBI used the incident to spur more violence between U.S. and the Panthers, according to a 1970 memo from the Los Angeles field office. I don't know if I want to read that or not, but you get the idea. They were doing their very best to get rid of these groups. And it's just, it's startling to me, the amount of people who will learn about this and, just go about their days like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do? Call to action. Spread this video. Share this with other people. Tell them to go out and read that book for themselves and make up their own mind. You may come to an entirely different conclusion, but you do have to go and seek this information out for yourself. When you rely on just letting somebody else tell you how it is, you put yourself at a disadvantage, because then you have to rely on those people to bring you the information. If the authority figures don't say it, you're not going to believe it. And it's the fact that an authority figure can say something to you and you just go along with it. It's hard to know who and what to trust, because like I said, chaos is what they want to spread. They want people not to know which way is up. They want people to be unable to decide what is right. That's part of the reason why they want us to buy into this voting system so much, why they need us to believe that voting works and that your voice matters, because it gives you this idea, well, I can elect somebody to go and represent me in Washington and they'll take care of all the hard stuff. And if they don't, now I can be mad at them. It's their fault for not doing their job. It takes the responsibility from you and puts it in the hands of someone else. And as long as we believe in this system and that it works, it'll keep going. But when we get to the point where we realize that, it seems like the Republicans and the Democrats are all working together in the background to play the everyday American citizen, that's when you start to get some change, because you stop buying the BS. I remember when the pandemic was going on, when Trump was in office, you can go back and look at the news articles or just like the news clips or the videos. They were all saying, oh, I'm not going to trust any kind of vaccine that Trump comes out with or his administration. Oh, it's going to be so horrible. I'm never going to take that. We have the election. Trump loses. Joe Biden becomes president. And then they switch their tune completely. Then it's like, oh, you better take this vaccine. And if you don't, it's your fault that it's not working, or it's your fault that it's getting spread. Nothing changed in the FDA are these other pharmaceutical companies. Nothing really changed. Same people in charge, same people who were doing research about the shot. They didn't change from one administration to the next, but the narrative changed because someone was in power that they wanted in power. See how that works? You see how that's trippy? And most people don't even notice it. They just goes over their head because we're, distracted. And I say we because, I'm a part of this as well. The American people, the everyday people, we're all in this together. So let's continue. The FBI would make it seem as if even sympathetic leftists were in the Panthers' crosshairs. Less than a year after this memo was written, Manson's followers lined up 4 denizens of liberal Hollywood in Roman Polanski's home and cut them to pieces, leaving slogans in blood to implicate the Black Panthers. Let me go back and read this memo so you have a better understanding. The FBI, according to the memo, planned to generate distrust through disinformation. The Peace and Freedom Party has been furnishing the BPP, or the Black Panther Party, with financial assistance, and anonymous letters being prepared for bureau approval to be sent to a leader of the Peace and Freedom Party, in which it is set forth that the Black Panther Party has made statements in closed meetings that when the armed rebellion comes, the whites and the people of when the armed rebellion comes, the whites and the Peace and Freedom Party will be lined up against the wall with the rest of the whites. It's this idea that it's another idea where we can't have black people and white people, or black people and poor white people uniting. That presents too powerful of a front. So let's do what we can to pit them against each other. That's another part of the game, divide and conquer. You have the little people, or what they consider to be the peons, arguing amongst themselves, and we miss the fact that we're being screwed over by the same people. Okay. One of the most notorious COINTELPRO actions in LA, the framing of Geronimo Pratt, a Black Panther and a decorated Vietnam vet. Pratt would be in prison for 27 years Pratt would be in prison for 27 years for a murder the FBI knew he didn't commit. He was in Oakland at the time of the crime, 400 miles away, at a Black Panther house that the Bureau had wiretapped. It had transcripts of a call he made to the Panther headquarters in Los Angeles just hours before the murder. Still, Bureau agents enlisted a federal informant to lie on the stand about Pratt's involvement. Even before the frame-up, FBI gunmen had attempted to kill Pratt by shooting at him through the window of his apartment. He survived only because a spine injury he sustained in the war made it more comfortable to sleep on the floor. I think going to jail, going to prison for something that you didn't do is one of the worst things that can happen to a person. We all know how horrible prison is. And here we have evidence that the FBI set this man up, sent him to jail for 27 years for a crime they know he didn't commit. How many more people are in jail from being set up? That's something that we need to think about. 27 years, that's mind-boggling for something you didn't even do. And it was the Federal Bureau of Investigation who did it. You really got to think about that. I think you should think about that. That's horrible. There's no other way to put that. That's horrible. Being set up for a crime you didn't even do. But God's plan is always in action. It may seem like the other side is winning, but they really aren't. You can only do this type of evil or put out this type of energy for so long before it starts to come back on you and your system starts to collapse. And that's what they're fearing right now. They see, oh man, we've been doing some shit. Like, fellas, you ever been in a relationship and know you've been doing wrong, know you haven't been doing the right thing, and you just waiting for the other foot to drop? You're like, oh, when she find out, it's about to be some shit. And that's no fun. That's not a fun feeling. I had a trip to Miami when I was I must have been like a junior in college. Went down to Miami for a spring break, but I got word while I was on that trip that word had gotten out that I did something I wasn't supposed to do, and I just knew, ooh, when I get back, when she hears about this, it's about to be a bad time. And I shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. I know that. Young and immature. But, I'm down in Miami. After I found that out, I stopped having a good time. I was like, oh, shit, man. And I know that's how the government is feeling right now. They're like, damn, these niggas keep finding out stuff. I know they're nervous. Like, I know they got that feeling in the pit of their stomach. Like, man, we've been doing some bullshit. And I felt that way. And that was, that's bad for my relationship at the time. But what these people have done, that was just one case of sending somebody to jail for something they didn't do. You think that's the only case? Hell no, there's plenty of people in jail who have been set up by the police, by the FBI. That's the kind of stuff that happens. And I know they know how spiritual science works. They know that energy that you put out comes back to you. So yeah, they're nervous right now, and they should be. See if I can get some better light going. All right. What else do we have here? All right, so let's read some more about the CIA and what they're getting into. Now, this section of this chapter is called The CIA on Domestic Soil. In August 1967, the same month Hoover launched COINTELPRO, CIA Director Richard Helms inaugurated the agency's aforementioned illegal domestic surveillance program, CHAOS, which also employed agents and informants to infiltrate subversive groups and then neutralize them. Excuse me. CHAOS was born of Lyndon Johnson's neurosis. In the summer of '67, the president was convinced that the divided, disorderly America he led couldn't possibly be the product of his own policies. Foreign agents or presumably foreign money must be to blame. He ordered the CIA to prove that the nation's dissidents, and especially its anti-war movement, had their origins abroad. So think about, the ego that you have to have and the arrogance, or just how out of touch that you have to be like, wait, man, these people can't just be mad at me naturally. Nah. These people love me. So it has to be somebody else. They gotta be like some foreign people coming in here and instigating all of this. CIA, I want y'all to hop on this. Now, remember what I said. The CIA is not supposed to operate on domestic soil. That's against the rules. But, they find ways around that. In one of my former videos, when I was talking about Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, he stated that his job as an economic hitman, he worked for a company called Maine, but it wasn't a government company, quote unquote, but they were working in America's interest. That's how they were able to go around the world and screw these countries out of billions of dollars and, put them in debt to us or USAID or the World Bank or the IMF. They were able to do that and say, well, it's not the government doing it. This is a private organization. But really, it's a front for the CIA. That's all it is. The the games these people are able to play. It's fascinating. That's why you should question everything. Question me even. Be like, where did they get this information from? And I'll show you. I'll show you the 2 books I'm pulling this from. You just got to go out and read it for yourself. Seems a little boring, but this kind of stuff is fascinating to me. So like I said, if you can, like and subscribe to this channel, share this video, that helps make it easier for me to bring this type of information to you guys. Because like I said, you need to be able to make up your own mind. And I realize everybody doesn't have time to just go out and scour the internet or scour these bookstores and read all this information. So if I can do my part to help point you in a certain direction so you can streamline your time, I'm glad to do it. Okay. Richard Helms complied without hesitation. In the 6 years that followed, the CIA tracked thousands of Americans, insulating this information gathering so thoroughly that even those at the top of its counterintelligence division were clueless about its domestic surveillance. Chaos kept tabs on 300,000 people. More than 7,000 of them were American citizens. The agency shared information with the FBI, the White House, and the Justice Department. Now, all these are 3 groups. Those 3 groups know that the CIA is not supposed to be doing this to American citizens, but did they do anything to stop it? No. At its peak, Chaos had 52 dedicated agents, most of whom served to infiltrate anti-war groups like their counterparts in the FBI. Undercover, they hoped to identify Russian instigators, although they never found any. That sounds like when they after 9/11 happened and we went to Iraq, we was like, yo, they got weapons of mass destruction. They got WMDs. We got to find these and take it from them because we ain't like them and they're going to use them against us. Guess how many weapons of mass destruction they found in Iraq? 0. None. Nada. You know how many thousands of people lost their lives over there based on a lie? They knew that stuff wasn't over there. But war makes money. And if you make war on an idea as vague as terrorism, oh, we got money forever. That's a cash cow. They sent my father to Iraq. He could have died over there. And, they would have, brought his body back if there was anything to bring back and, did that ceremony where they give us the flag and, salute and say thank you for his service. And that would have been that. I was in the youth choir at the church when we lived in Hawaii. And the choir director, the one who was over, Mr. Gilmore, found out later on in life that he died in Iraq based on a lie. So you probably know someone or have a family member who went overseas. Then they sent them to Afghanistan. Opium production went up in Afghanistan after we got there. And lo and behold, that's when we got the opioid crisis. It's not a coincidence. That's money being made. All the American soldiers that they sent over to fight in Afghanistan and the way we left the weapons over there. They're like, fuck it, just leave it. I can understand why those soldiers are pissed. They lost friends over there. People lost their family members over in Afghanistan. And we just left and, Taliban is still in control. They got weapons that we left over there. Why? Because it's a game. And they play with our lives. There's this idea that I know certain people have that people in the military have a lot of money. That's not the case. Wealthy people don't join the military unless they're doing it to go in as an officer and advance their political career. But wealthy people, for the most part, they're not sending their kids to the military. People in the military aren't multimillionaires like that. Maybe some of the officers, but the enlisted, they just have a steady job. So keep that in mind when you think that people in the military have it so good. It's not all roses, man. When you can be sent somewhere to die over a lie. And they never found it. That's crazy. This is a really good book. I'm glad I came across this. You know, I never even heard of this. And this is something to keep in mind as well. I heard about this book from a clip from Candace Owens. She was speaking about something, and then she brought up Chaos, this book, and a session that she found interesting. I was like, let me go check that out. Now, some people, because of Candace Owens' views, they'll dismiss everything that she has to say. They'll say, I'm not even gonna pay attention to that. You have to be careful of that, of what you dismiss and not use because you don't like where the message is coming from. Now, Candace Owens does have her problems. Like, she does say some crazy things, but when she pointed out this book, when she pointed out Chaos and what she discovered in it, she was on point with that. That's something I want you guys to keep in mind. You should always be hungry for more information. There should never come a point in your life where you feel like, you know what, I've learned enough. That's it. There's always more to learn. Information or knowledge is infinite. And it doesn't even all have to be about, conspiracy theories of what the government is doing. Learn about yourself as well. Pick up some books that talk about what the human mind is capable of. All that stuff is fascinating. I talk to you guys a lot about books, but comic books can drop some science in it as well. The idea of a multiverse, I was first introduced to that through comics like comic books from DC and Marvel. And now they're saying, you know what? We're seeing evidence that the multiverse is real. So idea that was shown in the comic book that we thought was fiction is like, oh wait, this is really going on. This has some basis in truth. That's fascinating. Y'all should read some more of these comics. And one that I just found out about recently is called the Truth Agency, the Bureau of Truth. Hold on, let me find what that is. All right, so the name of that comic book is called the Department of Truth. And that comic book is about a secret government agency whose job it is to control what the public thinks is real or not real. Excuse me. One of the key things that they found out is that reality isn't set. It's shaped by what people believe. And if enough people believe something to be true, then reality will shape itself to be true. For example, in that comic book, the Agency of Truth, they see that America's not going to be able to make it to the moon landing. So they stage it with Stanley Kubrick. I think that's his name. They used that director. They staged the moon landing and they put it out there in front of the world. Millions of people see it, so they believe it to be true. So reality reshapes itself to make it seem like men are already on the moon, taking that giant leap, getting off on the moon rover. So all the evidence that they faked the moon landing, that went away as well. And I thought that was interesting because we do know that your beliefs can shape reality. We also know that your beliefs, what you believe to be true, can control what happens in your body. Think about the people who have multiple personality disorder and the things that they are able to accomplish. They make physical changes happen to their body based on which personality is in charge. So if that mind can change the body, imagine what millions of people who believe something can do. That's another reason why I know they try so hard to control the narrative of what's happening. They want to control what people believe to be true. And this is a concept that got introduced to us in a comic book. I think it's well worth the read. You guys should go out and check that out. Again, it's called the Department of Truth. In the video, I'll put the author's name in where you can find it online. But thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Ron's Library and Ideas. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. Share this with somebody who you think can use it. And hit that like button. I'll see you guys on the next episode. And let me know what you think about all this. Let me know what you think about the FBI doing surveillance on American citizens. Is this something that's new to you? How do you feel about the CIA operating within U.S. soil? Have you ever heard of that? Does that surprise you? And let me know what you think about the idea that our beliefs can shape reality. I think that's a trippy concept. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace.